add to stream. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. All right. All right, everybody. So, sorry. Had a little technical difficulty. Shocking. Welcome to our LinkedIn live session. I don't think, let's see. So my name is Dominic Karuba. I'm with Sales and Technology Consultants. I'm going to try to fix my camera real quick. And I'm really excited to be here today. And, if you're watching this recording, number one, thank you for being here. Number two, that's my fault because I didn't put out, I put it out on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago, but I didn't promote it all that well. And, that's just the way it goes. That's one of the lessons to be learned as we, learn how to go from crisis to control, right? And one of the things as the ADHD leader that I am, streaming Facebook. All right, so we're removing the stream to Facebook. So we're going to remove that little technical difficulty. So thank you for being here. I am, hopefully you can jump on, and I'm going to present my screen in just a second when this goes away. Let's see if we can add it to Twitter. I don't know. Let's see if Twitter does it. Let's see. All right. So again, my name is Dominic Karuba. I am the founder, CEO, chief toilet cleaner of Sales and Technology Consultants. And I train people to be sales and technology consultants. So as part of the training, this is really designed to help my consultants and you get a handle on their business, because ultimately at the core of all technology that you're using, it's to run and manage sales, right? Sales is the key driver of your business. Without sales, you don't have a business. And, how you manage and move through the chaos of your business is really going to determine how much you enjoy your business, how much if you don't enjoy your business, you're not going to be as well at it. So the chaos tends to throw us in a loop. I am going to present. I'm going to move my screens around a little bit. Here we go. So what I'm going to cover today are 5 strategies that will help you really get a handle on your business. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to share my screen. That'll just make it easy. Yep, it's definitely easy with 2 monitors. Where is my PowerPoint dot? There we go. Look at that. Let's start from the beginning. My presenter view. I like my presenter view. All right, let's see. There we go. We're sharing a tab. Let's see what is streaming now. Did it go? Nope, I don't want that one. I want to stream. Boy, oh boy. But really, I can't change this on LinkedIn, right? It'll be there. So this is a little, here we go. There we go. Let's do this. Let's share. I'm going to load the PowerPoint up. So I am going to Google Slides. All right. So all lessons learned. So I appreciate you being here. Maybe some people will pop in. We are going to, there we go. Let's see how we go from crisis to control. So if you're welcome, entrepreneurs, business leaders, salespeople, we're going to take a deep dive into a crucial subject called where you transform crisis into a dynamic force to revolutionize your sales traction. Are you ready to are you ready to revolutionize? Well, let's go. So I'm going to add this to the stream. All right. So I think you can see it now. So in business, we often, we face times of economic crisis, periods of chaos and economic downturns, stiff competition, Google slaps, algorithm changes, technology changes, updates, and it really creates challenges for our sales teams and our leadership and creates immense pressure. Now, one of the things I can tell you is that the pressure of sales never goes away. However, the stress associated with that pressure can go away. And you do have the ability to diminish the effects of that pressure from the chaos. But what if we told you that you can actually turn that chaos into a powerful motivator for change and growth, right? So you can convert that, transform that chaos and all of those numbers. So I am, let's see, I'm going to now learn a little bit about my transitions. Oh, I'm already here. So I hope that sounds intriguing to you, right? So let's break down our journey into 5 key stages, and I'll go through these 5 stages, and we also have more stages, a little process that we'll go through in one of the stages that hopefully will help you repair what it is you're trying to fix. That is the thing that's causing you this distress that's eliminating sales traction. So each stage represents a step toward revolutionizing that. So the first stage is really understanding the crisis. It's essential to analyze the root cause of the issue, the impacts on your business, and what opportunities for change might reveal. That is, what might be the benefit of changing. It's not always good to change when there's crisis, right? You don't want to change everything. And this is really like the first step to any change process. Now, I've been in training for 25 years. I got my degree from the University of Georgia as an instructional designer, became a performance consultant, and then stumbled upon this Salesforce technology, which really is, for me, Salesforce, even if you don't use Salesforce as a platform, the models within Salesforce represent, most database models, most thinking models, most strategy models. So understanding where your crisis is coming from and understanding where in your sales process you're really creating more harm than good. So we need to look for where we can make impactful, meaningful, and actionable changes that work in harmony with the rest of your organization. So without a clear understanding, you can't create a clear plan. So when you're thinking about like how your sales process works, really analyzing that process, looking into your processes, getting a good, clear understanding of where does behavior map to the process and where does the system flow, and how does the work flow? Like when we do our consulting engagements with customers, we found that a lot of times people think they've got a really clear sales process, but what they have failed to recognize are the distinctions that drive that process in different ways, where the system doesn't match, the behaviors don't align with the information. And really what you end up getting is a lack of efficiencies because there's a lack of effective systems. And as a performance consultant, we all, it's important to look at the micro and the macro in a deliberate process. So this stage involves a thorough assessment of your current sales strategies, tactics, processes, procedures, and finding out, are they effective? Are they necessary? So I'll give you an example. One of my clients They work with a company that has given them access to their entire customer database. But each customer in their database is flagged one of three ways. It's an active customer that is currently working with an internal employee that they cannot work with, and an active customer that's not working with, so it's open, and then a customer that's no longer active, happens to be a phone company. Well, their process was go into the database. So they went into the market to find people. Then they went to the company's database to see if that person was marketable to. Well, the challenge with that is in their sales process, that's a back and forth that really missed the mark of what they were using, which was LinkedIn as part of their sales process, right? Go to LinkedIn, find people who fit the profile, then stop, go look somewhere else, see if you can keep pursuing. Well, you wasted all the effort of finding them. If you find your ideal client, then that's going to be your ideal client as a person, regardless if you can do business with that company. And what do you know when you have people? Well, when you have connections with people, people are your connection to the relationships to other people. So even I told them, I said, skip the qualification process because all leads are unqualified. Just find your leads, find your market, then disqualify, right? Then if you find somebody and you make the connection, because that's a behavior that you can repeat over and over and over again, even automated tools will do it. Some of you are probably my connection because of my automated tools. Then once they're in your network, build a relationship with them, create value for them. I mean, they may be disqualified from doing business directly, but it doesn't mean that person who knows, likes, and beginning to trust you, that you still can't provide them advice. You still can be an asset to them. You just need to, put that in your process where, we live in a mass media world. So you don't have to not talk to Bob because Bob's working with another AE. Bob could just be one of your audience, and Bob can refer people who are not disallowed, right? So it's those kind of things. You have to look at it. So when we do that, this is the part of the presentation where we're going to deep dig. So when you're looking at it, there's 5 ways to go through it, and it's a rapid way to look at it. So first, I got a little chart here where you can start to identify, and this is a circular process. So it starts at the top with recognizing. So recognizing what you consider problems. Start with that, because if you call it a problem, it is. If your people call it a problem, it is. If your customers call it a problem, it is. If your competitor calls it a problem, congratulations. You're now doing it right? So you want to recognize those things that might be flaws in start with complaints. Solicit complaints. Second thing is you're going to analyze. And you go through understanding what it's doing, why it's doing it, how it's doing it, who it's doing it with, like the 4 horsemen, the what, why, how, when it's doing it, and look to see, are those variables that you can adjust, change, remove, and still keep the sales process moving, right? And you just notice they're not as effective. I got to click 5 times to get to this page instead of, hey, look, it's as simple as, think about it. If you get, a lot of times you're just switching from system to system. Like I really teach people to pay attention to the click path. What is your click path to get things done? Are you doing the same click path, like 10 clicks to get to, are they qualified? Or are they available? Or whatever. Well, can you automate those things? That's where opportunities for automation come in. And does your system automate? Can you use a tool that'll automate some of the rote tasks, rote behavior? That's what automation is. It's if this, then that. And if you're always manually doing it, say, for example, think about your email signature. There is a feature in Outlook that I used to teach when I taught productivity classes called the signature. And I said, hey, how many of you guys use a signature? Great. How many signatures do you have? They go, 1. Hello, it's my signature. So I just sign it. Really? Why just 1? Do you find yourself asking for the same thing, saying the same thing? My thank you signature versus my forget you signature. right? Maybe you have two different messaging you want. So instead of typing the message, then having your signature come up automatically, you can pick different signatures. That's basically a template. It's basically an automated response, manually triggered. You choose the response. Little things like that you can find as you start to analyze. And then the plan stage is where you start to identify those obvious choices of things that you find that are repetitive, that you're doing manually, things that are things you could use your tools to do for you instead of doing it, like, for example, creating spreadsheet reports instead of having a CRM. The data's in there to create automatic reports. And then you start to develop new and innovative strategies, not implement, but develop, right? Then you can take all of those planning ideas, all of those analytic results, and determine, okay, are there themes here? Well, selling business to consumer, we're using the same sales stages, if we're using them at all, or, the same drop downs to sell to a consumer that we're doing to a business. And well, businesses are more complex. So there's got to be more stages because you need to segment your behaviors. So when you're looking at the implement stage, you're really taking that plan and refining it and defining it and really testing that plan, right? As you start to implement. And I would say implement one item at a time. If that's part of, I see a lot of companies making mistakes like, oh, we're going to go from spreadsheets to Salesforce. Woohoo! Slow down, partner. And we want to get everything in Salesforce. I'm going to build it out to the max. You're going to lose. You're not going to get your ROI for years, maybe never. Maybe you'll get frustrated and change your CRM, which is a huge mistake. Unless you're changing to Salesforce, then it's not. And I'm just advocating for Salesforce at this moment. I don't care what you use. You ought to have a CRM. And it doesn't matter which CRM you use, but eventually all businesses end up at Salesforce. Now, I know Microsoft disagrees, whatever. And there's some big movements that happen back and forth with the big guys, but not often. And the largest companies in the world use Salesforce because Salesforce is here's what I'll say about Salesforce. It's the only platform in the world you can start for 25, maybe $30 a month now with their Essentials edition, because they're raising the prices $5 for all the editions to include AI. It's the only platform you can never outgrow. You can start as a solopreneur in your garage and be the next Amazon, be the next Walmart, and never leave Salesforce. So I know there's this one, there's that one, but this feature, but that feature. Stop it. Stop chasing toys instead of refining and improving your tools. So then the last part of the strategy is you have to decide what you implement. Is it, just like every marketer will tell you, is it working better or worse? And you can't decide that too quickly. Just like marketing, you might find a place where you get lots of leads, but you end up not selling that many, or you sell them, but they don't stick. So cheaper leads are not always better than more expensive leads. More expensive leads may cost you more, but if you get a better customer, a better prospect, a better customer, a better customer value, lifetime customer value, then by all means spend more money on those leads. But that takes tracking your data over time. That takes time, patience, which I know a lot of times when you're in a crisis, you don't feel like you have patience, that there's time to process. I know I do that. I go through that problem. That's why I have other people that help me with this in my company. So then it repeats, right? Wash, rinse, repeat. You gotta keep the process. This is a process. It's not a project. So ongoing maintenance is one of the other strategies that we'll do, right? So first one was understanding the crisis. The second was revamping the strategies, then finding out what's working. And that leads to the third strategy, which is you're starting to get traction, right? So as you're getting traction, you've identified crisis areas. You've implemented strategies that are actually reducing the crisis factor. And with that, you might notice that if stress is less, then the sales process is improving, right? And the people are adapting, and the systems are evolving, and the sales are growing. You start to get traction, start to look at what works, what's working better. And then you scale it in your market. You look to ways to bring it to market, to and this, a lot of times in the revamping your sales strategies, right? You might have tested it with a small group, and now you're going to roll it out to more and more sales teams. So it's all about thinking big, but starting small and scaling when things become workable, when they become manageable, when they become executable, repeatable, transferable, all of those things, right? So that you start, this gaining traction is about getting those initial results and getting enough of them to make adjustments to your implementation, right? So that you can actually see the results and then start to, which is the next part, which we're going to talk about, stage 4, which is revolutionizing your sales approach, which is where you then can start being creative, work with market. We'll get to that in just a second. Well, actually, we'll get into it now, because once you start to gain traction, now you can revolutionize your approach. And so this is when you want to consider shifting to a CRM if you're working on spreadsheets. This is when you want to consider upgrading your CRM to a version that has more features or things that you can improve your existing tools, technologies, strategies, process, because you've worked on the paper before you go to plastic. I used to say in my classes, right? If you do automation if you can't do it on paper, don't try to do it in digital systems. Don't try to load it up. Let's say, oh, I'm starting a business. Let me start with automation. How do I know that's a fail? Because I've done it myself. No good. No bueno. Right. And I can tell you from experience, right? But this is when you start to take your technologies and see what you can extract from, how you can sharpen the saw, out of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, right? So now you got things working. Now you're sharpening the saw. You're revolutionizing, because you're not jumping around trying to figure out what's wrong. You've already identified the hiccups, right? So using things like data segmentation, personalization, learning to pull analytics and getting better, creating some new fields that give you better picture of your data and what's happening with it. Changing the steps in the sales process. We teach this in the Salesforce administrator class, where, we teach people how to make that happen in the software. But, if you've got the same mindset about how you sell people, you're really kind of cluttering up your effort. This is really starting to refine your recipes. That's what strategies are. They're recipes. So refining your strategies for, like a restaurant, right? You've got a strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I heard a guy I was listening to Howard Stern or somebody, this guy reviews fast food, and he was, he's this new character on Howard. I haven't listened to Howard Stern in years, but I just got Sirius XM. And he said, look, it's this guy who knows, right? Who knows? This guy knows that the breakfast in the morning is better, because breakfast than the same restaurant with the same breakfast in the evening, because McDonald's now serves breakfast 24 hours a day, which is great, but something's awry with the McDonald's process. And McDonald's is a great example of how you ought to be thinking about modeling your business. Is your business a McDonald's? Can you open up 10 more locations and have them all work the same? And for some of you, that makes you go, oh, that'd be awesome. And some of you go, that would be a nightmare. 10 times the problems, no good, right? So these are the ways that McDonald's evolved. They created the processes, the systems, so that they could create a repeatable, replicatable process, which is called a franchise. So thinking like a franchise. But this is where you start to understand, right? And finally, the last stage is about now maintaining control. So you've gotten little pieces of control. You've gotten your head around it. You're starting to deepen your understanding of the things that are working and how they're working. And so you're getting better. Just that's where the transformation comes from, right? I've been in the world of transformation for 4 decades, where you transform your life by changing the conversation, by looking at things differently. You know, the definition of transformation is looking at the same, in my world, looking at the same problem through new eyes. And so, you know, if you switch from spreadsheets to Salesforce or any other CRM, you're going to start to see your data through new eyes. As a matter of fact, after doing hundreds of implementations where companies are moving from one system to another, as a professional trainer, I would go in and learn the new system to train people, but I had to learn a little about the old system. And I got to tell you, people always have a little challenge moving to the new system. And the one area that it always shows up is in reports. They're like, oh, the reports suck. Oh, the reports are bad. Of course they're bad. Do you know why? Because you got new data. So you got a new vision. So think about when you move from one system to another as you try to maintain control and drive the future, is that you've got to, you know, learn a new language of the new system. You've got to learn how you're collecting data and how you present it. A simple one, I'll give you a simple example. Large Fortune 500 company that I worked with, they were moving from one CRM to another, and something that seems standard, that is, this should be easy, the name field of all the contacts and all the convenience stores and customers that they sell through. It's a consumer package, right? So they go to convenience stores, grocery stores. Well, the contacts, they had a name field, and the new system had a first name and last name field. So we'll just split it up. Well, it didn't work that way because the name field had lots of variables. So they decided to move the name into the last name field, so that as reps implement the new system, they can just enter the new first name and correct the last name from whatever it was. That way, all new data would be correct and all blank data needed to be updated. It's a tip right there. Well, that's how you drive the future, right? When you make those kinds of decisions. But again, now I've got reports that could say first name, last name. I can run a report of all blank first names. So it's not just Joe in the name field or Joe manager, right? If there's no first name field, that means, and the rep has visited the store 5 times, you're like, well, why haven't you fixed this name? Is Joe no longer there? Mark him as like, do something to the record, dude. You're ignoring the data updates, which is another way to drive adoption, to pay attention to those things. And that's one of the ways that when you understand the crisis, that you've revamped your sales process by literally studying it. You started to see where you can get, where you got slippage, you gain traction. You've changed, you've started to alter your sales approach. Well, of course, maintaining control and driving the future is a natural outcome. So in this journey from crisis to control, remember, the crisis you experience is a signal, not that there's a symptom. It's a signal that there's a symptom, that you have an opportunity for growth and improvement, right? The crisis is the catalyst. The stress is the catalyst. The frustration is it's the same with your human emotions. When you have these feelings with people, it's telling you that the way you're doing it needs adjustment. Don't get stuck in the trap of the way they're doing it. If they would only blah, blah, blah. If my salespeople would only make more sales calls. Well, it's clearly too hard. Whatever you're giving them as a raw material is not getting in the factory in a predictable assembly line to produce sales calls. You got to break it down. You got to identify and analyze. And so those are the 5 strategies. I was going to put a, whoops, my little mouse is, I know you can't see it, but my, let's see, I'm taking that out of the live stream. So those are the 5 strategies, right? Understand, being aware that there's a crisis. And by the way, what's going to happen is when you eliminate all these crises, you are going to see more show up, but at smaller levels and smaller levels and smaller levels. And that's the nature of knowledge. The more you learn that you don't know, right? The more, if you started studying physics today, right? Then the more you learn about physics, the more you're going to learn you don't know about it. It's going to expand the more you don't know tells you how much you know, right? It increases. So for growth, if you want to start to shift from crisis to control, you've got to start by identifying the crises. Understand that the crisis is a signal, right? That it's giving you a chance to revamp the behaviors. And by the way, you're not going to get it done. Yeah, and right. And then you can start to identify areas of improvement, implement, test, deploy those improvements, and then scale them with your approach, and then just maintain the controls. Keep an eye on the ball, which is the efficiency of your sales process, right? Is your entire sales process free of stress? Is it a stress-free environment? Is it a stress-free management? Is it a stress? And that takes constant and never-ending improvement. The key is not to resist the change, but rather to lead the change. Be the change agent, not wait for changes, because the market's always changing. The mentalities are changing. The media is changing. All of those things are happening. And if you're not staying connected. So I hope you found the session insightful. If you did, please like, share, comment with business leaders. This came about because of my ADHD and running businesses. ADHD and entrepreneurism is synonymous a lot of times, right? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you may not be ADHD, but if you're constantly starting new businesses like I do, or new projects or new initiatives, you might have ADHD. And this is your chance to, find that crisis and turn it into cash, because that's what ultimately you want to control, is your cash flow. And because that's the only thing that matters in business, to stay in business. Your job is to have a business that produces enough cash to keep the business alive. And that's the first rule of business, is to stay in business. The second rule of business is don't forget the first rule of business. So if you don't have your business in order, the first thing you have to look at is, in the front end, how am I handling what's coming through the door before I try to do more? There's a nice little rhyme. Handle what's coming through the door before you try to do more. Now, I'm telling me, not you. I'm saying that for me because, my assistant is on here, and listen to that. Remind me before I do more, are we handling what's coming through the door? So if you like what we got, you want to see more of it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Salesforce zen.com. For now, that's what it's called. And until next time, you have the power. You have the power to turn your sales trajectory up instead of your blood pressure. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate it, and make it a great day.